Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome today, this afternoon, UK time or European time at least, for the qualifying watch-along for the 2021 Styrian Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are doing well ahead of what is going to be in about 30 minutes time, as you can see on the screen. A very close, very exciting, possibly thrilling qualifying session in the Styrian Mountains. And hopefully you guys, no matter what part of the world you're from and what time it is or whatever, hopefully you are having the best day you can possibly have. But yeah, we are in for such a great session today. Obviously, next weekend we do it all again, so I can't wait for next weekend's qualifying session as well. But especially for today, because if you look at the practice results, and we'll get into practice 3 and the results of that in just a moment, the field, again, so close. But there are parts of the field where we could really see a big surprise. And I'll get into that in a moment. And I think, without doubt, looking, say, at the top, it's going to be very, very close, the fight for pole position between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. I don't think Bottas and Perez can really fight for it today. Plus, Bottas has a 3-place grid penalty for his very stupid driving in practice 2 in the pit lane, spinning in the pit lane. So yeah, Hamilton versus Verstappen yet again, and we'll get into in a moment who I think is the favourite. Sorry, we'll get into a moment who I think is the favourite, and who I think ultimately will come out on top. But before we get into the teams and how I think they will probably do in qualifying today, based on practice and I guess you could say also their strengths and weaknesses, let's get into the results of practice 3, which of course will give us a great indicator as to what is going to happen in this session. So Lewis Hamilton, for the first time this weekend, topped a session in practice 3, 0.2 of a second clear of Max Verstappen. Now, so far this weekend, Verstappen has been very quick. He was, for most of practice 3, also looking very, very good. But then Hamilton went and banged in a very, very good lap. The best lap of the weekend so far, without doubt. So it's hard to say whether Hamilton actually does have the pace for pole, whether Max Verstappen can go a lot quicker. He was held up by a couple cars on his quickest lap in practice 3, I think by Latifi and Hamilton. So I think he can go quicker, but will it be enough for pole position today? We'll have to see later on. And then Bottas was 3rd, Perez 4th, and then Tsunoda 5th, Gasly 6th, AlphaTauri looking as though they are the quickest midfield team this weekend. And then you've got Charles Leclerc P7, Fernando Alonso 8th, and the 2 Aston Martins of Stroll and Vettel 9th and 10th. Also, we'll get into them later and how they could really cause a bit of a surprise today. And then you've got Antonio Giovinazzi P11, Ocon 12th, Sainz in 13th, and then Russell, Raikkonen, Schumacher, Ricciardo, Latifi, Norris, and Mazepin. The reason the two McLarens are so far down, I think with Ricciardo, I think he did race simulation runs towards the end of practice 3, and his initial runs were not too special in practice 3 on the soft tyre. So I don't think that time is representative of how quick he really could have gone. For Lando Norris, his best time was set on the medium compound tyre. He did do a couple times on the soft, but those times were deleted due to him violating the track limits. So Norris could probably go into, say, 7th, 8th place, definitely top 10. So Lando Norris, I still think, absolutely will be a top 10 runner today. But now let's first get into the two top teams, Mercedes and Red Bull. Mercedes look a tad stronger going into qualifying than I thought they would be. Lewis Hamilton's lap, certainly, at the end of practice 3, definitely going to make Max Verstappen and Red Bull think twice, because I don't think given the weekend so far, I don't think they would have expected at the end of practice 3 to be a couple tenths behind. And yeah, again, Max Verstappen probably could have gone quicker on his lap. But Hamilton's lap time was very impressive, and it was indicative, I think, of just how over a single lap, when he really has to start putting in some good laps for confidence or for, qualifying, of course, for a good position for the race, that he is just so damn good at nailing laps. And that's exactly what he did this morning. Can he do it this afternoon? I think Lewis Hamilton will be very strong this afternoon. I think Hamilton will definitely be qualifying in the top 3 on the grid. Probably second at worst. We'll have to see what Valtteri Bottas does. Bottas does have a penalty, though. A 3-place penalty. So Bottas is going to be starting most likely in, 5th or 6th place for the Grand Prix. Hopefully for Bottas, he doesn't have a poor qualifying, because that's the last thing that he does need. But I think even if Lewis Hamilton isn't on pole, he will be very close to it. Very, very close. It will be probably a tenth, maybe 2 tenths at the absolute most. But if he don't get pole, again, it's not going to be like France, where it was a quarter of a second. Not going to be anything like that at all. And I think definitely between Verstappen and Hamilton, we are in for a very close session. Maybe similar to, say, the Spanish Grand Prix, where Hamilton that day got pole by, I think, was it 0.03 of a second that day. So again, very close it will be, but I don't think I can say they are favourites, because, moving on to Red Bull, I think Red Bull do have overall the better car for this track. Their power unit is stronger than the Mercedes one. The Mercedes one is still very strong. Don't get me wrong, it's still very strong, but not quite as good as the Honda power unit. And I believe that AlphaTauri's performance so far this weekend has proven that the Honda powered cars are very strong around the power dominant Red Bull ring. So I'd have to say Red Bull, in terms of the pure car, have probably the best car out there. It's still close between Red Bull and Mercedes, but I still think Red Bull have the best car out there. And Max Verstappen, as we know from the past 3 or 4 races here at the Red Bull Ring, is probably one of, if not the best driver for this circuit. Of course, he won the race in 2018 and in 2019, even though those races he didn't have the best car, had to really work for it, and won the race on pure merit of his own performance as a driver rather than the car being so good. And then even at the first of the Red Bull Ring races of last year, in hindsight, probably could have won the race in, the first of those races, because he was not too far behind Valtteri Bottas on a harder compound of tyre. And of course, later on with safety cars, I think Max Verstappen definitely would have been contending for victory and maybe would have won the race again. So I think Max Verstappen, combined with the Red Bull package that they have this weekend, I still think has to be the favourites for pole position and also race victory as well. But with things looking a bit closer going into qualifying, Max has got to make sure he doesn't take things for granted. Say, even if in Q1, Q2, it's looking as though Max has a clear pace advantage over the rest. Because, as we know, when Q3 comes around, Lewis Hamilton is the best there is when it comes to nailing not the perfect qualifying lap, but a good enough lap to get, say, the best position he could possibly get, say, in qualifying at a certain Grand Prix. So Verstappen, despite, I think, still being the favourite and Red Bull still being the favourites, I think they've still got to nail the laps, because if they don't, then Lewis Hamilton will be waiting to take yet another pole position in 2021, and of course for his Formula 1 career. Sergio Perez, I think for him, as long as he qualifies 4th and the car ahead of him in 3rd is Valtteri Bottas, I think he will be happy with that. So as long as Perez can out-qualify all of the midfield runners, then that's good enough, because he'll then start the race in 3rd. He should be quicker than Valtteri Bottas over the race distance, because I think the Red Bull will have enough power to keep a Mercedes behind it. And also, of course, Sergio Perez very strong over the course of a race distance. So as long as Perez, again, out-qualifies all the midfield runners and only is, say, beaten by his teammate Hamilton and Bottas, then, of course, he will qualify, or not qualify, he will start the race in 3rd. And then for the race, I think at least a podium will be on for Perez, maybe more if anything happens to the front two, if Verstappen and Hamilton, of course, do qualify in 1st and 2nd place, respectively. So we'll see. But for Perez, yeah, as long as he qualifies 4th and out-qualifies the midfield runners, he should be in for a very strong Grand Prix on Sunday. Now let's get into some of the midfield runners. Ferrari, I have to say, over a single lap, don't look as good as I thought they would. They're definitely slower than AlphaTauri, which is not a surprise, because the Honda-powered AlphaTauris I thought would be strong this weekend. But I thought, because of, say, the last 3 or 4 races in 2021 where Ferrari have been very quick over a single lap, even much quicker than we expected them to be. I did think over a single lap so far this weekend we would have seen Ferrari, say, maybe ahead of AlphaTauri over a single lap. But that just isn't the case. AlphaTauri clearly quicker, and Ferrari looking as though they are probably at best 4th quickest team in qualifying trim, at least. I think in the race it'll be very difficult for them to finish in the points, quite frankly, because of their tyre wear woes and also because their lack of straight line speed. But yeah, I think Ferrari, the best they can hope for, given what we've seen so far this weekend, it would have to be, say, 7th and 8th at the absolute best. I think going into this session, they're probably going to be aiming to get both cars into the top 10, which would probably be a good result for them, especially considering McLaren, I'm sure, will show more pace. Aston Martin also looking very quick. So we'll see how Ferrari do, but I think at best, yeah, both cars into Q3 would be a good result for the team. But I'm afraid in the race, if it's dry, I think Ferrari are going to struggle massively, quite frankly, to get anywhere near what would qualify as a good result for them. But McLaren, again, in practice 3, they were low down, but there were circumstances behind that. Lando Norris, like I've said before, he could go into the top 10 and probably faster than, say, the 2 Aston Martins and also Alonso and the Alpine in practice 3. So Lando Norris, without doubt, is a top 10 runner. But Daniel Ricciardo, it's weird because Ricciardo in the past here has never really had a good qualifying result in Austria. This has always tended to be one of his weaker circuits, at least over a single lap. But in practice 2 yesterday, he finished in 2nd place. So it's hard to say really with Daniel Ricciardo how he's going to do today. The aim has got to be for him and the team, the McLaren team, to qualify in the top 10 with both cars. If they do that, then they probably end up out-qualifying Ferrari today, which if they did out-qualify them, then that would set them up so wonderfully for the Grand Prix, because even if they qualified behind them, that I think they would still be in very close contention. But if they qualified ahead of them, then I think they'd almost certainly be beating them in the race, as long as the race is dry, of course. But yeah, I think McLaren definitely will get Lando Norris into the top 10. For Ricciardo, though, I could absolutely see him qualifying outside the top 10, say 12th, something like that. Going to be very close between him, his teammate, the 2 Aston Martins, maybe the 2nd of the Ferrari cars, the Alpines. Again, going to be very close, and hopefully for him and McLaren's sake, can qualify in the top 10 with Lando Norris as well. Now, for Aston Martin, as we've seen so far this season, and especially in the last 3 races, Aston Martin's race pace is, in terms of the midfield, is one of the best out there in that midfield pack. Of course, it's clearly slower than the Mercedes or Red Bull cars during a race, but in the midfield, the only team I can think of that's probably quicker in the races is McLaren. So you'd have to say overall for the whole grid, Aston Martin are probably the 4th quickest team over a race distance. And in qualifying so far this season, they've had good results, but nothing anywhere near as good as, say, their race performances or results. So coming into this weekend, you would expect Aston Martin to be, say, outside the top 10, having the possibility to get in the top 10, but just not having enough pace over a single lap to really do so. But so far this weekend, they've been consistently top 10 runners with both cars, not just one. So you'd have to say that Aston Martin are looking as though they're probably dark horses for this Grand Prix this weekend for a really good result. Because again, they have probably the 4th best car over a race distance. But in qualifying, if they can get both cars into the top 10, given how quick they are over a race, really, they should be on for a very, very strong result. So watch out for Aston Martin, because I think we might see a bit of a surprising performance. Because if, say, in this session, the session for Aston Martin goes how it normally goes in qualifying, then what will happen probably is either both cars will end up knocked out in Q2, or one of their cars will get into Q3, but it'll only be, say, 10th or 9th. If they can get both cars in to the top 10 and get, say, 8th and 9th, say, as a starting position, then they are really setting themselves up well for a very, very strong Grand Prix. So look out for Aston Martin, because I think they've got the possibility to cause a real surprise in qualifying today. Another team has a real chance at that, causing a big surprise, is AlphaTauri, who, as I've said, at least in qualifying trim, it looks as though they have the 3rd best car. Probably in the race as well, they're probably going to be maybe not the 3rd best team, but they're going to be definitely good enough to finish in the points tomorrow as well, as long as it is dry, of course. But yeah, so far from what I've seen in qualifying trim in the practice sessions, looks as though AlphaTauri, if there's going to be any team that gets into that top 4, where, you know, we're expecting it to be the 2 Red Bulls and the 2 Mercedes, if there's anyone to get in there and cause a shock, it will be this team. I've got to say as well, Gasly, you know, been great this weekend, but also Yuki Tsunoda has been really, really good. And I'm really happy to see that he not Jesus Christ. He finished ahead of Pierre Gasly in practice 3. Of course, if it finished that way in qualifying, he would out-qualify him for the first time in his career. And this season, of course. And I think if he was to get a result like that, that would be such a massive boost to his confidence. I mean, you can already see, after Baku, where he got a great result, you can see that he has really stepped his game up. Because in France, even though, of course, he did make the mistake in qualifying, he then, in the race, I thought, drove well from last up to 13th, almost 12th until Russell beat him to that. So it was a good drive, I think, in the race in France. The only problem with that weekend was that he had his crash in qualifying. And then this weekend so far, he's been looking as though he's definitely going to be in the top 10. And I think definitely both AlphaTauris will be qualifying in the top 10, bar a mistake or a reliability issue or a yellow flag, red flag at the wrong time. As long as things go smoothly, I think both AlphaTauris will get into the top 10. And like I said, in relation to the battle for pole position, Honda Power is looking very, very good. Without doubt. So if both AlphaTauris can, say, qualify on the third row of the grid, then I don't think Red Bull really have an excuse not to get pole position today. Maybe Red Bull, maybe they're running more wing or downforce than Mercedes. Maybe that's what caused them to not be as quick in practice through as expected, or maybe in qualifying if they don't get pole, maybe that's why they aren't maybe as quick as they should be. But again, if AlphaTauri are 5th and 6th today in qualifying, like I said, there will be no excuses for Red Bull. And finally, let's get into the final 3 teams here, or 4 teams, of course, but 3 of them we're actually going to talk about. Haas F1 can go fuck themselves. Alpine, Alonso looks as though he will probably be hovering around 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Hard to say, though, honestly, if Alpine will actually finish in the top 10 with one of their cars. If I was to say now, I'm going to say no, because I just don't think they have a good enough car. I think definitely AlphaTauri are easily good enough. One of the Ferraris for sure will get into the top 10. One of the McLarens as well. So after that, it leaves just 2 places. And I think one of those 2 places will go to Aston Martin. So it's hard, honestly, to see Alpine getting a car into the top 10. It can absolutely happen. There's a good chance of it happening. I just don't think it will happen. So Alpine probably will qualify, say, 11th, 12th, 13th on the grid. But I think for the race, they will set themselves up well for a good result. Also, like I've said plenty of times in the last month or so, good to see Fernando Alonso driving well again. Alfa Romeo looked decent in practice, but we all know what's going to happen in qualifying when everyone finally starts to push as hard as possible. Alfa Romeo just don't tend to have the pace on a Saturday. So I'm afraid for Alfa Romeo, they're going to be probably getting 1 car knocked out in Q1, 1 car knocked out in Q2. And then for Williams, who looked decent in practice 3, I think what's going to happen here is what usually happens. Russell will get into Q2, probably qualify 14th or something. And then Nicholas Latifi, I think, will probably get close to getting into Q2, but I think ultimately will get knocked out in, say, 16th or 17th position in the Williams. But Williams looking very close, honestly, to causing an upset. They just don't have, I think, quite enough pace to really, again, go and cause that upset. But those are the teams, guys. And with, 7 minutes or so, or now 6.5 to go until the start of qualifying, let me know in the live chat, for the teams, who do you think will finish where? And let me know, the final 6 minutes or so, what are your final predictions for qualifying today? Who do you think will get pole position? Let me know right now in the live chat. And also let me know who you think will finish in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And I'll read out as many predictions as I can before the stream finishes. Just want to say, if you're wondering why I haven't talked about Haas F1, and the reason I jokingly said they can go fuck themselves, I don't actually mean that, by the way. It's because, they're literally not developing their car at all this season, because they're not even trying to be good this season. They're trying to be good, of course, for 2022, so there's no point talking about them. But I just want to say, before I come to the chat, don't forget, guys, to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, as I will be live 3 times tomorrow. For, of course, the race will be live at 11 AM UK time for the race preview. That's 3 hours before the race starts. And then live again at 1:30 PM UK time with Nib for the race watch-along for the Styrian Grand Prix. And then live again at 7 PM UK time, which is about 3 hours after the race finishes in the Styrian Mountains for the race review. So as I said, don't forget to subscribe for that content coming up tomorrow. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe right there, or go to my channel page and sub there. And whilst you're there, hit the notifications bell. And don't forget as well to smash the like button and share this stream and channel absolutely everywhere you can, as we have, 5 minutes or so to go until qualifying gets underway here in Austria. But yeah, let's try to read out some predictions from you guys. And make sure, again, to keep them coming in the chat, and I'll read out as many as I can before we get underway in qualifying, again, in about 5 minutes. Finton Mainz says Max, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Norris. Michael Arvin says Max, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Lando. Keko says Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez. Naboth says Lewis will take pole. Marlon says Verstappen for pole position. Gina says Hamilton, Verstappen, Perez, Bottas, and Yuki Tsunoda to finish in 5th. I would be very happy for Tsunoda if he was to do that, because I think given his mental troubles in the first bit of this season, I think it'd be very good to see him, get back up there. Astro Stevo says Lewis pole over Perez 2nd and Verstappen 3rd, Bottas, and then hopefully Ricciardo 5th. Theroux, I think it is, says he thinks Alpine will qualify P7 and P8, which would certainly be a great result for them. Blade Rise, he goes for a top 10 prediction, and he says Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Gasly, Leclerc, Alonso, Norris, Ricciardo, Ocon, and Sainz, P11, just missing out on Q3. Art says Hamilton for pole, Burt. Templar says Max, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Gasly, Leclerc. Bravomoz, great to see you, says Max, Hamilton, Gasly. Marlon says Hamilton, Perez, Leclerc. The next 3 after Verstappen, in his opinion. Brad Walls says Hamilton, Verstappen, Perez, Bottas. Rooksfoot, great to see you as always, says Hamilton, Verstappen, Perez, Bottas, Gasly. Edward says Hamilton will take pole from Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Lando. Anthony Kane says Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Ricciardo. And that's all of them that I've read so far. But keep them coming, guys, the next couple of minutes, because then I will read out some more. I will give you my prediction, though, now, as to what I think will happen. So, I am going to go for Max Verstappen on pole position. Then Hamilton 2nd, Bottas 3rd, Perez 4th, and then Gasly in 5th. Of course, so if Bottas qualifies in 3rd, he will start the race in 6th. Meaning that Perez will then start 4th, and then it'll be Gasly. Perez now will start 3rd, and then Gasly will start 4th, and then 5th, I'm going to go for starting the race, that is, qualifying 6th, but starting 5th will be Yuki Tsunoda. But guys, I'm just going to quickly mute my microphone just to clear my throat, and also have a bit of water before qualifying gets underway, because of course I want my throat to be in the best condition possible. So just give me just a few moments, and then I'll be back in just a moment. And there you go, should be better now. Right, let's read out some final predictions from you guys. Milan De Beer actually did put a prediction there, then he's deleted it for some reason or retracted it, so don't know why he's done that. Ryan J. Forbes says Hamilton for pole, but by the looks of it, looks like most of you are going for a Max Verstappen pole position, which is understandable. Verstappen is currently driving better than Lewis Hamilton. Red Bull are in better form. Red Bull have a good record, of course, at their home circuit, and so far this weekend have looked very, very good. So it's not surprised, like I said, that you guys think that. Anyway, let's get this stuff ready. And of course, this finishing order on the left-hand side is obviously not the order of qualifying so far. That is the finishing order of practice 3. Let me just adjust things quickly. There you go. And, of course, get the ticker ready as well. So if there's anyone here that is new to Formula 1, which I understand there are always new people to Formula 1 because of the Netflix series and all of that. If you are new, Q1 is 18 minutes long, and we will be knocking out the 5 slowest. And then the next 5 slowest will be knocked out at the end of Q2, which is 15 minutes longer than Q3. Is just the top 10 runners solidifying what position they will start in for the race. And Q3 is 12 minutes long. But we'll be underway in just a moment, and I'll make sure to add the dotted line, of course, now for Q1, so you guys know where that cutoff zone is. There you go. In between there, Raikkonen and Schumacher is the cutoff zone as Q1 gets underway in, right now. There you go. So qualifying has officially begun at the Red Bull Ring as Milan, his prediction is Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Vettel, and then Lando. Thank you for that, Milan. As yep, Q1 has begun, but currently no cars have entered the circuit, which is very interesting. I thought we'd have at least 2 or 3 out there already, but 30 seconds in, nobody venturing out on the track. But like I was saying, for anyone new watching, anyone new to Formula 1 that is, and the channel, everyone below that dotted line, if they end up below that dotted line by the end of Q1, then of course they'll be knocked out in those positions and they will finish in the position. So if it was to finish as it looks right now, of course it would be Mick Schumacher, Daniel Ricciardo, Nicholas Latifi, Lando Norris and Nikita Mazepin, but it will not remain the same because it rarely does. And yeah, we wait. We wait for cars on circuit. And hopefully we won't get, I mean, we'll definitely get yellow flags today, as Nicholas Latifi, thankfully, is the first car on track in the Williams. We'll definitely get yellow flags today, without doubt, but hopefully no red flags to scupper any people's plans, as Latifi now joined on track by the 2 Haases of Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, who went Mazza spinning in practice 3, adding another to his worthy collection of spins. By the way, just to let you guys know, air temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. It's a nice sunny day in the Styrian Mountains. And the track temperature is 55 degrees Celsius. So a very hot track temperature. If we got that tomorrow, then tyre wear would really be very critical with those type of temperatures on track. But we are expecting a lot windier of a day tomorrow and possibly some rain sprinkled in as well. So we wait as Nicholas Latifi comes now through turn 7 and 8. We now wait to see the first lap time of qualifying. And Latifi, obviously not wanting to take too much out of his tyres, now comes up to turn 9. And he will, as he backs off now, he will then probably start to go for it on the entry point, or midway rather, through turn 9 and turn 10. And now, with DRS open on the pit straight, Nicholas Latifi begins his first attempt in qualifying. Let's see what it's like. Turn 1 looks pretty good. That was a good turn in there for Latifi. No problems at all. The Williams down the straights should be good, with the Mercedes power unit. Does a 16.5 for the first sector, as George Russell is out on track as well now. And of course, all the runners so far will be on the soft compound of tyre. As Latifi now to turn 4. Front end goes in nicely. Bit of oversteer on the exit though, which is normal of a car that far down the grid. And now into turn 6. And through turn 7 and 8. Didn't quite hit the apex of turn 7, so that would have cost him probably 1/10 of a second. as Mick Schumacher actually did a quicker middle sector. As we've now got Stroll, Tsunoda, Gasly, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen on track on outlaps as Nicholas Latifi now comes to the line and goes P1. Not a very quick lap time though, 105.9 as Mick Schumacher goes second and Mazepin will go third. Mazepin 1.3 seconds slower than his teammate on that first run, so got to improve that. But it is Nicholas Latifi in P1 as we've got basically all cars on circuit now except the 2 Alpines, Daniel Ricciardo, and the 2 Mercedes cars as well. But yeah, it's Latifi first at the moment with Mick Schumacher in second. And then Nikita Mazepin in third as George Russell in the second Williams now begins his first run of qualifying and passes a Red Bull. By the way, if you are watching the broadcast, please make sure to not confuse Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez's helmets because they do look a bit different this weekend. As Raikkonen almost a tenth of a second down on Latifi in the first sector, which is not a massive surprise. Giovinazzi, though, purple first sector for him. Quickest of all so far. As Russell is about 0.2 of a second up on Latifi through the first 2 sectors. So Russell should go into P1 with this. Doesn't really have any traffic to contend with. And Russell now comes through the final corner. As Raikkonen, purple middle sector for him. Now Giovinazzi does a purple middle sector. As Russell goes P1 in the Williams by 0.2 of a second. He is quicker than Latifi. As Kimi Raikkonen now comes to the line and only goes second to Russell. As Antonio Giovinazzi now goes P1, 0.2 quicker than Russell there. So Giovinazzi up into first place for Alfa Romeo as Stroll and Tsunoda and Gasly, I'm sure, will be going even quicker than those cars. Let me just update quickly that Kimi Raikkonen is up into third position. Not anymore because Lance Stroll has just gone P1. Let me just see where Yuki Tsunoda goes. Yuki Tsunoda now goes into P1. So Tsunoda is up into first position. Now Pierre Gasly is up into first position in the Alpha Tauri. So Gasly up into first. Now Lando Norris goes first by 0.4 of a second. Brilliant first lap there for Lando Norris as Charles Leclerc goes second in the Ferrari. But Norris is up into P1. Not anymore because it is now Max Verstappen P1 by about 0.1 of a second from Lando Norris. So Verstappen is up into first. Then Norris is second. And then you've got Charles Leclerc, who is now in third place for Ferrari. Gasly fourth, Tsunoda fifth. And then Lance Stroll is in fifth. Not fifth, sorry, he's in sixth place. And then you've got Sebastian Vettel in seventh place for... well, he was in seventh place. Now it is Carlos Sainz who is in seventh place. That pushes Sebastian Vettel down to 8th. And then you've got Sergio Perez in 9th. Daniel Ricciardo, who it says is bottom, but he's not anymore, is now up into 10th. Giovinazzi is 11th, and it's Russell 12th. Raikkonen 13th, Latifi 14th, Schumacher 15th. And then the rest have not set a time, as here comes Valtteri Bottas to the line for his first lap time of qualifying, and he goes second. Lewis Hamilton comes to the line and he goes P4. Not a great first run there for for Lewis Hamilton, but there you go. As let me just promote Bottas up the order into second place, and Lewis Hamilton up into now fourth position for Mercedes. So the only cars not to set a time, Nikita Mazepin did have his lap time deleted in from his first run. So Mazepin has not done a first proper time yet. So in the drop zone, Latifi, Schumacher, Mazepin, Alonso and Ocon. Alonso and Ocon have both as well not set a lap time. And they are currently, I can tell you, on an outlap. So should be seeing what Alpine are capable of in just a moment, as we're actually now looking at the Alpine of, I believe, Fernando Alonso. No, it's Esteban Ocon, who's now coming through the final corner now. And Esteban Ocon starts his first flying lap of qualifying today. So Ocon through turn 1 he comes. No problems through there. Should be giving away some time to, say, the Honda-powered AlphaTauri, who is the quickest, by the looks of it, midfield team coming into qualifying in the first sector. He misses the apex slightly through turn 3. Not that important, though, to hit the apex there, because you can just take the wider exit through that corner. As Ocon comes through turn 4, no problems through there. And now into turn 6. A bit of instability on turn-in. But he is 0.3 of a second quicker than Kimi Räikkönen, who of course is in 15th and at risk of dropping into the elimination zone at the moment. As Mazepin does do a lap time but stays in what is going to be in a moment last position. As Esteban Ocon comes to the line. And Ocon goes 12th with that lap, as Yuki Tsunoda does improve his lap time, but he stays in 7th place. Nicholas Latifi comes to the line and goes all the way up to 8th place. What a lap there by Nicholas Latifi. That is a stunner. Great lap by him. The Latifi up to 8th. And then Gasly has just gone ahead of Leclerc for 5th. Fernando Alonso does his now first lap time of the session. And he goes up into 8th position. Displaces the brilliant lap of Nicholas Latifi. So great job there. As here is now Sergio Perez, who has improved his time, but only to 11th place. Perez is what, a quarter of a second ahead of the cars, of the quickest car that is in the elimination zone. So you would expect that Perez will be able to get through on that lap time, because I don't think the two Haas's will go through. So I think if Perez was to pit now and stay in the pits for the rest of Q1, he should be able to get through to the next part of qualifying, as long as Sainz and Vettel do not improve their lap times, which we'll see about that. As Charles Leclerc goes back up to 5th for Ferrari, as Valtteri Bottas so far on this lap, half a tenth quicker than Verstappen, but his middle sector was not as quick as his personal best. Verstappen, currently P1, only half a tenth ahead of Bottas here in Q1, with 5 minutes to go, and Valtteri Bottas comes to the line and has a very slow final sector and is still, of course, in 2nd position. But it looks as though, with 5 minutes or 4.5 almost minutes to go in Q1, looks as though everyone is now coming into the pits for a new set of tyres for the final runs of Q1. Here's a replay of Kimi Räikkönen at turn 4. And simply turns in and the car would not slow down. I don't know if that's a braking issue or understeer, but the car simply just wouldn't slow down enough for Kimi into that corner. Räikkönen really, really at risk here. He is 18th and 0.3 of a second he needs exactly at least, to get into the next part of qualifying, you'd have to say that Raikkonen is most likely going to fall foul of the cutoff zone here in Q1. So, yeah, not looking good there for Raikkonen. Giovinazzi, though, in 16th is only 200ths, I think. Let me just see. Yeah, 0.02 of a second away from Ricciardo. So, Giovinazzi can definitely, and we've seen this in the past, he is able to bang in some good laps in qualifying as Antonio. So he can definitely get through. Russell, you'd imagine if Nicholas Latifi could get into 9th place at the moment, you'd imagine that Russell can do even better than what he's done so far. So, yeah, Russell, I'm sure, can improve, but I'm not sure about Raikkonen because his qualifying as of late has been, well, not even as of late, for the last 2 years, really, has been very poor. And I think he is basically, unless a miracle happens, I think Kimi Raikkonen is destined to be knocked out in this session as Sergio Perez comes back out on the circuit. Verstappen, Bottas, Norris, and Hamilton are staying in the pits by the look of it. Or is that Lando Norris now coming out? Nope, that is Daniel Ricciardo. But yeah, the top 4, Verstappen, Bottas, Norris, and Hamilton, are staying in the pits. Here's a replay of Valtteri Bottas getting held up by a Red Bull head, and then does he wave his hand? No, just a replay, and then team radio of him just saying, I just lost 2 tenths to Verstappen being in the way. I wouldn't say that's 2 tenths of a second. Maybe a tenth at most, but not 2 tenths. That's blasphemy right there from the Finn of Valtteri Bottas, as there's a Williams now passing a couple slower cars on their outlaps. Everyone on an outlap except for the top 4, as I've said. And we'll now see who gets knocked out in this very close session, especially in the midfield here in Styrian Mountains. As there's a lot of cars backing up between turn 8 and turn 9. And then, of course, between turn 9 and turn 10 is when you finally let go of it and give it everything you have to get through to the next part of qualifying. As it looks as though we're going to be watching Esteban Ocon on this flying lap, this final flying lap of qualifying 1. As Esteban Ocon now comes through the pit straight, now into turn 1. And Ocon has a good turn 1 there, opens the DRS yet again. Let's see if his first sector is any better than his previous one, and it is. Gotta say though, the first sector here is not really that important because it is just really one corner. Sector 2 also, not massively important. It's definitely a lot more important than the first sector, but most of it is just about power and whether your car has enough of it. The sector that really matters here is the final sector. If you get the final sector, if you get absolutely the most out of the final sector, you will end up having a good qualifying result here without doubt. Is Esteban Ocon about 1/4 of a second down on Max Verstappen so far on this lap? Antonio Giovinazzi doing enough at the moment to get through as Russell has gone all the way up into 7th place in the Williams. So Russell looking very strong there. And Esteban Ocon, he comes to the line and he goes P11. Antonio Giovinazzi comes to the line. He goes up to 9th in the Alfa Romeo. So Giovinazzi up to 9th. Raikkonen 17th and out as Pierre Gasly goes 5th. Carlos Sainz has done a purple middle sector, but he only goes into 6th position. Sergio Perez here is at risk of getting knocked out. Stroll now goes up to 6th. So Vettel into the drop zone. Charles Leclerc goes back up into P5. Yuki Tsunoda goes up into 4th position for AlphaTauri. Sergio Perez goes up to 5th for the Red Bull team. So Perez is up into 5th. And then you've got Daniel Ricciardo has gone he's now into 15th, meaning that Nicholas Latifi and Esteban Ocon and Kimi Raikkonen are out. Let me just update the order, though, because it's not fully updated on the screen. So, in Q1, it's Verstappen finishing first, from Bottas, Norris, Tsunoda, Perez, Hamilton, Leclerc, Gasly, and then Lance Stroll finished up in 9th. Sebastian Vettel finished... no, he did not finish in 10th. I don't know why I think he did. It was Fernando Alonso in 11th. Carlos Sainz was 10th. Russell 12th. Sebastian Vettel 13th for Aston Martin. So thankfully for them, both Aston Martins are through. Daniel Ricciardo just got through into Q2 in 15th place. Meaning that, as you can see on your screen, knocked out in Q1, Nicholas Latifi, Esteban Ocon, Kimi Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, and Nikita Mazepin. I've got to say, though, Latifi, I think, did a good job there. Because he's out-qualified an Alpine and Kimi Raikkonen. So, I think he should pat himself on the back. Yes, he didn't get through to Q2. He wasn't expected to. So, I think, honestly, Latifi has done the best he could. So, great job. Well, not great. I'll retract that. A good job there by Nicholas Latifi. But into Q2 is, again, Verstappen, Bottas, Norris, Tsunoda, Perez, Hamilton, Leclerc, Gasly, Stroll, Sainz, Alonso, Russell, Vettel, Giovinazzi, and Ricciardo. So let me get some of the stuff ready for you guys for Q2, which, again, like I said, Q2 is a 15-minute session, and this is going to be so close between, maybe not AlphaTauri because they're looking very good, but Ferrari, Aston Martin, Alonso, possibly Russell as well in the Williams, Aston Martin, Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo. It's going to be so close to getting to Q3, so close. So please do not go anywhere, because we are in, I think, for a very, very exciting Q2 and also a very exciting Q3 as well. As Sky F1 currently on an ad break, so I can't currently tell you when the session will be getting underway, but it will be getting underway very soon. Got to say, Esteban Ocon, 17th. That is a very poor result, and also very surprising because his qualifying performances this season, most of the time, have been pretty good. It has dipped off, or dropped off rather, not dipped off, dropped off in the last couple races. I think that does have something to do, though, with Fernando Alonso's improvement in the Alpine, which we can clearly see, this weekend as well. But, yeah, Ocon, his form has dropped, without doubt. He's not driving at the same level he was at Imola, say, Portugal, Spain, Monaco. He's, not currently at that level, and he needs to get back to that level, because Fernando Alonso has bounced back big time, and by the looks of it, Fernando will be the lead driver for Alpine for the rest of the season, looking at the way things are going. As Sky F1 in a moment will come back from that ad break, and I'll just add a second dotted line, of course, for qualifying 2. So, anyone in between 10th or in between the two dotted lines, rather, which at the moment it is Alonso, Russell, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo. If it was to finish that way in the end of Q2, then those drivers would be knocked out and start the race in those positions. But, as I've said, very rare that Q1 and Q2 results do correlate. So I'm getting excited for this because, again, I think we're in for a very, very close and exciting Q2. By the way, good to see some fans at the circuit. And I don't think it's for tomorrow. I think it's maybe half capacity for tomorrow's race. I think Nib told me that for the Austrian Grand Prix, which of course is in is next weekend, apparently if I remember what he said correctly, it's supposed to be full capacity crowd for the Austrian Grand Prix on the Sunday. So that is, of course, is good news. And hopefully that can continue to be the case for the rest of the season. Of course, Silverstone have just announced they'll have a full capacity crowd for the entire race weekend, which is, of course, very, very good to hear. Given what I've seen from the matches held at the European Championships, football championships, of course, and the matches held in Budapest, I think we'll probably get a full capacity crowd for the Hungarian Grand Prix as well, and then so on and so forth. So, thankfully, getting back to normal we are. And Q2 will be underway in... Well, it is underway. Is it right now? Let's see. It will be underway in a few seconds. And there you go. I think I've got it synced up absolutely bang on time. I had to do that in line with the... Actually, no, I've not got it synced up. Let me just hide that. Almost got it synced up to the absolute second without even looking at the countdown. So I'll sync it up in about 40 seconds from now, as Valtteri Bottas has come out onto circuit first ahead of ahead of anyone as the Mercedes driver, which is a bit of a surprise. But also, I think he came out on soft tyres, as Charles Leclerc currently has no tyres on his car because he's in the garage and he's not coming out at the moment. But yeah, Bottas and Giovinazzi, the two cars on circuit right now. And it would be nice, honestly, if the TV director would cut to the track where there's actually cars on track rather than the stationary cars in the pits, as I've yet again missed the syncing up point. So I will do it when it hits the 13-minute markers. Russell is on track as well, and Giovinazzi is on. Antonio Giovinazzi is on the medium compound tyres. Valtteri Bottas has started his first run in Q2. And Bottas also, of course, on the medium. So, can Bottas get through to the next part of qualifying on this tyre? It would be critical if he could, because, and it suffers a slight bit of understeer at turn 3, but as I've said, it's not a massive issue there. Russell is on the soft compound tyre. Would be ideal for anyone to be starting on the medium, because you're not going to really lose too much time on that tyre in the race. As I'll sync up the timer right now. So there you go. 13 minutes to go in Q2 as Valtteri Bottas comes to the end of his run in Q2. And he should, of course, go P1. So let me just update that. So Valtteri Bottas, let's see what his lap time is. It is a 1 minute 4.7, which is not that great for a medium tyre run. I would have expected a bit more, as this is Max Verstappen in the what looks to be Sergio Perez, looks to be Sergio Perez's helmet, but it is actually Max Verstappen, and Perez has a helmet that looks like Max Verstappen's, so that's what I'm saying. Do not confuse the two this weekend. But yeah, Bottas is in first. Giovinazzi has just completed his first running Q2 on the mediums, and he has obviously gone up to second because they're the only two times on the board at the moment. As Lewis Hamilton now comes through turn 9, and now let's go over it through turn 10 and gets the lap underway. I'll be very interested to see what Russell does on his soft tyre lap in the Williams, as Verstappen comes through now the first sector, and he is already a 1/10 of a second up on Bottas. Russell, interestingly, only 2/10 of a second slower than Bottas on that lap, and ahead of Giovinazzi by 4.5 of a second. So, great effort there by the Williams of George Russell. As Max Verstappen's purple first sector has been beaten by Lewis Hamilton. And Verstappen, for the middle sector, is just under 0.2 of a second up / quicker than Bottas, as Hamilton has lost a lot of time in the middle sector. He's now half a second down on Bottas after the first 2 sectors. Lewis Hamilton having troubles as Max Verstappen comes to the line and goes P1 by just under 0.2 of a second. Lewis Hamilton 8.5 tenths slower than Max Verstappen. Hamilton goes, for the moment, into 4th place. And that lap might be so poor that he might have to go out again on soft tyres. And yet, turn 3, locks the inside front, goes too wide, and that lost him probably 3 to 4 tenths just there. So he probably could have gone ahead of Russell, definitely. But even though it cost him that amount of time, he still was not going to go anywhere near as quick as his teammate or Max Verstappen, as Sergio Perez now comes through the final corner. Purple middle sector. Perez on the soft tyre as well. He goes second. 0.04 of a second slower than Max Verstappen. Interesting to see that Red Bull are going to use Perez differently for the Grand Prix if it is dry. Going to try and start him on the soft with Verstappen on the medium and the 2 Mercedes possibly on the mediums as well. Of course, that would benefit Red Bull if Perez was then able to get after the 2 Mercs and pass them on that softer tyre early on in the Grand Prix tomorrow. It would help them quite a lot, as Sebastian Vettel on the soft compound tyre now begins his first attempt in Q2. Let's see what his first sector time is. And it is pretty good. It's quicker than Max Verstappen in the first sector even. Not a purple first sector, but quicker than what Verstappen was able to do. As Vettel now comes down into turn 4. Driving very well at the moment is Sebastian. And looking race by race even more comfortable and assured of himself in the Aston Martin. As he's only 0.1 of a second down on Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. This is a very good lap. But he's got traffic ahead of him who hopefully will get out of the way through turn 9 and turn 10. Will they get out of the way? McLaren does. That might have distracted him slightly. Does lose the rear end slightly on the exit of turn 10. Comes to the line. He goes P4. But I do have a feeling he could go quicker because of that traffic that may have distracted him. So Sebastian Vettel up to 4th, only 3.5 of a second off Verstappen, and of course Verstappen on the medium. As Hamilton on an improved lap, as Verstappen goes even quicker on a 104.4 now. Hamilton now goes up to 3rd. Lewis Hamilton goes 3rd in the Mercedes. Carlos Sainz on the soft compound tyre goes 5th. In the Ferrari, Lance Stroll goes 4th for Aston Martin. A brilliant lap there as Charles Leclerc starts his first lap. As Pierre Gasly goes quickest in the AlphaTauri. The Pierre Gasly quickest on the soft compound tyre. Great lap by Pierre. But it is Gasly first, Verstappen second, and Perez. Hamilton. Tsunoda has gone up to 5th in the AlphaTauri. Norris has actually now just gone up to 3rd in the McLaren, and Daniel Ricciardo on the soft only 14th. Very poor lap there for Daniel Ricciardo. But it's Gasly first, Verstappen second, and then Lando Norris is in 3rd place. With Perez 4th, Hamilton 5th, and then Tsunoda in 6th place for AlphaTauri. Lance Stroll, let's find him. He's in 7th for Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso is into 8th place in the Alpine. By the way, the only cars to do a run on the medium is Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, and Giovinazzi. Just to clarify there. But Alonso is in 8th, Bottas 9th, and Sainz in 10th, meaning that Charles Leclerc, surprisingly, is currently sitting in the drop zone in 11th place, as Valtteri Bottas is on another run, an improved run in the first sector. Vettel is 12th, 13th is Russell, and then 14th is Daniel Ricciardo, and 15th is Antonio Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi, though, can probably, on a soft tyre, probably go up to 12th or 13th, as Bottas comes through the final two corners, looking very good through those corners, and goes third. So Valtteri Bottas, with an improved run, goes up into P3 to make sure, I think, of his place in the next part of qualifying. But for Lewis Hamilton, can he be sure that he's safe to get through? Because he's only 0.2 of a second ahead of Charles Leclerc, who is currently in the drop zone. So what do Mercedes do? Do they gamble and get him through on mediums and not, let him go out again? Or do they let him go out and have to qualify on the soft and, of course, start on the soft if it's a dry start to the Grand Prix tomorrow? My guess is what Mercedes will do is that they will send Hamilton out on a soft compound, and if he does the first two sectors and he's looking good, but it looks as though he won't get knocked out anyway, then of course they'll tell him to back off so he doesn't go any quicker and improve his lap time, again, on a soft compound of tyre. As Lewis Hamilton, I think that is, has actually come out on the medium, I think. Yes, he has. Lewis Hamilton comes back on circuit with about 4 minutes to go in Q2 on the medium compound tyre. Let me just update this picture so you guys can see the car better there. There you go. Yeah, let's hope from Hamilton's point of view that he can get into top 10 and can improve his lap on this medium. And I think, actually, if he does qualify on this new set of mediums, he sets his better time on this set of mediums. Unless he has a new set of mediums, I think he will be committing himself to a one-stop race tomorrow if he does qualify on this tyre. Because he won't have, like I said, any new, fresh sets of medium tyres for tomorrow's race, I believe, coming into the race tomorrow, if he does set a better time on this fresh set of mediums. So, unless I have it wrong and he does have another new set that he hasn't used yet, of course, then I think Mercedes here are really committing to a one-stop race, which it should be a one-stop race, but it's not a guarantee. And a two-stopper can definitely work at the Red Bull ring, as Hamilton has not actually improved his first sector so far. Turn 4 for him, well, I was going to say goes okay, but gets a bit of oversteer on the exit, so not great there for Lewis Hamilton. Turn 6 was okay. He's about 0.3 of a second down on Pierre Gasly, who of course holds the P1 time at the moment in Q2. And now turn 9 and turn 10. Flicks it through turn 9. Slight correction through the middle of turn 9. But looks all good. Comes to the line and Lewis Hamilton improves, but only to 5th. And he was about 1/10 of a second quicker on that lap compared to his previous best lap. As we have 2 minutes to go. And the only car's not on track, the only car now not on track is Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. Will he come out again? Probably. Saying that though, he has about 30 seconds to get out on track. And I can't see... No, don't think he is. The Pierre Gasly will stay in the pits, and he thinks he's through, and he probably is. As Charles Leclerc on the soft compound tyre begins his final run of Q2, a run that he hopes will get him through into the top 10. He's always been good here, qualifying-wise, in Austria, and he would be very sick to his stomach if he was not able to, one, out-qualify his teammate, and secondly, even get into the top 10. As Charles Leclerc through turn 4 looks okay enough. Yuki Tsunoda has done an improved first sector on the soft compound tyre. Leclerc looking for the middle sector. Good enough at the moment. 0.2 of a second up on Carlos Sainz. Yuki Tsunoda only 0.2 of a second down on Pierre Gasly so far on this lap. Tsunoda might improve just about on this lap as Sainz is looking not great at the moment as Charles Leclerc comes to the line and goes up into 8th place. Will that be good enough as Yuki Tsunoda stays in P7? Carlos Sainz rounds the final corner. Can he get into Q3? No, he cannot. Carlos Sainz is out in Q2. Antonio Giovinazzi is also out. He is in now 13th place. Russell comes to the line, goes 10th. Russell up to 10th. How long will it last? Not very long, because Fernando Alonso now goes all the way up to 6th place in the Alpine. Lance Stroll comes to the line. He ends up in 10th. Sebastian Vettel currently in 13th. Can Vettel go any quicker? He cannot. He is out in 13th place. Lando Norris goes P1 in the McLaren. Daniel Ricciardo comes to the line and only goes 14th in the McLaren. A very embarrassing day for Daniel Ricciardo as now Sergio Perez goes P1 in the Red Bull. So let me just update some of the orders. So Sergio Perez ended up quickest there, of course, on the soft compound tyre. Lando Norris went up to 2nd. Gasly 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Bottas 5th, Hamilton 6th. Alonso, what a lap by him to get 7th. There, Tsunoda 8th, Leclerc 9th, and Stroll. What a qualifying for him in P10, given what we know about his great race performances. You've got to say, he has set himself up really strongly for the race. But knocked out in Q2, George Russell in P11. Got to say, though, what a job he did. Yes, he was knocked out, but he qualified 11th ahead of a Ferrari of Carlos Sainz and Vettel and Ricciardo, and was only 8 thousandths of a second away from getting into Q3. So Russell in P11, Carlos Sainz in P12. That is not a massive surprise because he's not, in qualifying terms, that great around here. Sebastian Vettel 13th. Vettel will be desperately disappointed with that. So will Daniel Ricciardo. Only 14th for him in the McLaren. And 15th, Antonio Giovinazzi. So like I said, it is Russell, Sainz, Vettel, Ricciardo, and Giovinazzi who are knocked out in qualifying 2. There you go. That is that session done. And now we set our sights on the final qualifying bit of the day. And that, of course, is Q3, which will be underway in probably 3 to 4 minutes from now, as Sky F1 are going to now go to an ad break before the session gets underway. Like I've said, Q3 is the top 10 having a shootout to decide who starts in the top 10 positions. And it is 12 minutes long, so only 2 runs can be completed realistically, in the session. But guys, right now, let me know in the live chat, who do you think, given that we've now had Q1 and Q2, who do you think will get pole position? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I'll read out some before Q3 and the meaningful runs get underway. I just want to say, though, again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because I will be live 3 times tomorrow for the race preview, race watch-along, and race review as well, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. for all of those 3 streams. Stick around to the end if you want to hear, again, the exact timings of those streams. I'll be live for all of that tomorrow, so don't forget to subscribe. Either bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my channel page and do it there. And whilst you're there, hit the notifications bell. And as well, smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. But let's see what you guys have to say in the chat as to who you think will get pole position. Let me just find the first one here. Adam says Lewis. Brennan Broussard says Verstappen. Jaden Julian 77 says Max. Kubihis, I think it is, says Alonso. Astro Stevo saying Perez. Adam again saying Hamilton there. I think just reiterating his prediction. Denzil says Lewis Hamilton. Gina says Hamilton from Verstappen, Perez, Gasly, Bottas, and Tsunoda. Loren says Max. Michael Arvin says he'd love it to be Lando, but it will be Max in his opinion. East Hunter says Gasly. Wow, what a brilliant poll that would be. Turbo Power says Verstappen. Marcel Dubois, I think it is, says Lewis. Claudio says Lewis Hamilton. Let me see if there's any other ones here. Mapudi says Lewis. Colton Underhill says Perez. Co says Max. Hans Kuhl says Max. Forever Moz says Max. Mike Post says Max. Isha says Max, Gasly, Perez, Yuki, Hamilton, Bottas. Red and Auto says Gasly. Pumperdink. Great name. And especially the last name as well. Norris. Elite Gaming says Max. Monsai says Max. So by the looks of it, and TJ Wittenbach says Max or Checo. Michael Rodricks says Max, Perez, Bottas. Jason says Norris. And Ernham, I think it is, says Norris, I think. Oh no, it says Max. So by the looks of it, you're going for Max Verstappen, and so am I. I think Verstappen, as long as he nails the laps and he doesn't make a mistake, he has to especially, though, nail the first lap. If he gets the first lap right, then it's going to make it very tough for anyone to beat him in the second one. So, yeah, I'm also going to go for Max Verstappen here. We'll just move on to these different pictures. A reminder, if Valtteri Bottas gets pole position, Valtteri Bottas will not start on pole position. He will start 3 places lower than when he qualifies because of his stupid spinning mistake in the pit lane in qualifying, in practice yesterday. But yeah, Q3 should be underway in just a moment. As Anthony Davidson on Sky F1 just showing some Sky onboards of the Aston Martin, not quite nailing the final 2 corners. Like I've said, those final 2 corners, you can have a great lap until then, but if you don't get those 2 corners right, then you can forget having a good result in qualifying here. As Q3 should be underway in a moment. Hopefully they let us know when it does get underway. Knowing my luck, it's probably already underway and they just haven't said. As everyone at the moment is held in their pit garage. And we have 2 Mercedes. And yeah, pit exit close at the moment. So yeah, still not ready for the next part of the session. But yeah, we have 2 Mercedes in this session of Hamilton and Bottas, 2 Red Bulls of Verstappen and Perez, Lando Norris in the McLaren, Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda, the 2 AlphaTauris, as Q3 is now underway. The first car on track looks to be, is that Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas? I can't quite see from there. It's Lewis Hamilton, first car on circuit. But yeah, we have 2 Mercedes, 2 Red Bulls, 2 AlphaTauris, a Ferrari of Leclerc and Aston Martin of Stroll, a McLaren of Norris, and an Alpine of Alonso, duking it out for the final 10 positions. And who will take pole position for the Styrian Grand Prix? We're about to find out in the next 10, well not even 10, but 11 minutes. And I'll sync up the timer in about 15 seconds from now. Lewis Hamilton, of course, had pole position in the last Grand Prix here. In the wet, the last dry pole position was Valtteri Bottas, which, of course, was the Grand Prix that took place just a week before that. There you go. 11 minutes to go in this session. As Lewis Hamilton comes through turn 9 and now into turn 10, and Lewis Hamilton begins his first attempt at pole position in the Styrian Mountains. If he's able to get pole position today, it would be a very important one, because all the momentum right now is with Max Verstappen and Red Bull, and he's got to put a stop to it as soon as possible. As Lewis Hamilton does a 16.3 for the first sector. And now through turn 3, where he made that mistake earlier on in Q2, he has got through there just about okay. And Hamilton, of course, on a soft compound tyre this time, through turn 4, no problems through there. And now into turn 6. And once again, no problems, as he does a 44.8 so far on this lap. Now into turn 9 and 10, the final 2 critical corners, as Yuki Tsunoda is now out on circuit for AlphaTauri. And Hamilton comes through and sets, what's his first lap time? Is a 1 minute 4.2. That is not that great of a lap, I have to say. I expected certainly a lot more than that. I expected, honestly, probably a 1 minute 3 something, but it wasn't to be. Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda and now Pierre Gasly are out on circuit for the AlphaTauri team. But Hamilton is currently in P1. Now Fernando Alonso joins the track. Now Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Now Sergio Perez. Now Max Verstappen. Now Lando Norris. But Bottas and Stroll are currently still in the pits. I think with Stroll, they're probably going to put him out in the break in between most of the cars going out, say with about 5 minutes to go, to make sure that Lance doesn't get any traffic. As Lando Norris, I think, going to try and overtake a couple cars here on this out lap. As Yuki Tsunoda should be starting his lap in the next 10 seconds as Hamilton comes back into the pits. We'll see if that is a good enough lap, but my feeling is that if Max Verstappen bangs in a good lap with no mistakes, that it will be a lot quicker than that. As Yuki Tsunoda now starts his first run in Q3. What can the Japanese driver do? Can he better his great qualifying of Baku? Let's see. Turn 1, absolutely bang on the money. And now he starts the run to turn 3 and is 0.07 of a second slower than Hamilton in the first sector. Valtteri Bottas has now come out on track on an outlap. The Mercedes going for a bit of a different program than they normally go for. As now Tsunoda into turn 4. Car absolutely fine through there as Pierre Gasly does a purple first sector and already a 10th up on Tsunoda in the first sector alone. As now Perez, Verstappen, Alonso, Tsunoda, Leclerc and almost Bottas in a moment have started their first runs here in Q3 as Yuki Tsunoda now comes into turn 9. Nails turn 9 really well. Turn 10 as well. Great run there for Tsunoda. And he comes to the line and Tsunoda is up to second. Of course, only 2 times on the board. Pierre Gasly, though, about to come into turn 9. And now he comes through turn 9. Now through turn 10 as Max Verstappen is already 0.4 of a second up on Lewis Hamilton so far on this lap as Gasly now goes up to second ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Leclerc only 0.5 down on Hamilton after the first 2 sectors as Max Verstappen comes through the final corner and Max Verstappen takes provisional pole position for the moment on a 1 minute 3.8, 3.5 tenths clear of Lewis Hamilton as Charles Leclerc I was trying to say did and does at the same time, put in a good lap, but he's now already down to 6th as Lando Norris is up to 3rd. In the McLaren, as Valtteri Bottas is about to complete his first run, but Perez is 4th, then Gasly 5th, Leclerc 6th, Tsunoda 7th, and then Alonso is 8th. Bottas comes to line and only goes 4th, almost half a second down on Verstappen and even behind the McLaren of Lando Norris. So very poor run there for Bottas. And I'm sure the two Mercedes can go quicker. And at the moment, if Bottas was to qualify there, he would start the race in 7th as Lewis Hamilton goes for another lap on a fresh set of soft tyres. Already, though, a 10th of a second down on Max Verstappen after the first sector alone. Yeah, Bottas into 4th, and at the moment, Lando Norris causing a massive surprise in 3rd position. As Hamilton now comes to turn 4 and 5, now into turn 6. And Hamilton is a quarter of a second down on Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. Unless Hamilton produces a perfect final sector, I think Hamilton will still be slower than Max Verstappen on this lap. As Hamilton comes through turn 9 and turn 10 now, Lance Stroll, I think, starts his first run, and Hamilton goes even quicker, does do a purple final sector, but is still almost a quarter of a second slower than Max Verstappen with 4.5 minutes remaining in qualifying. And if Hamilton does not do another lap, then, well, Max Verstappen has got pole position here. But he will have to go out again just to make sure, in case anyone goes quicker, and in case Hamilton comes back in quickly and puts on another set of soft tyres and goes for a 3rd run in Q3 here. But what a top 3 that is. Verstappen, Hamilton, Norris, only covered by 0.4 of a second as Lance Stroll is coming towards the end of his final, probably is, final run in qualifying. Now into turn 9 and turn 10. Let's see where he goes. Will it be any higher than P10? He comes to the line and Lance Stroll goes 8th, which is probably as good as it will get. Saying that, though, Tsunoda and Alonso, I'm sure, can improve their times, especially Yuki Tsunoda, who is half a second slower than Gasly so far on this lap. As Hamilton now being wheeled back in. Will he come out again, or is that him done? Taking his gloves off, so is that a sign that Lewis Hamilton is done in this session? We'll have to see. Are they going to put another set of tyres on it? Yes, they do. So Lewis Hamilton, it appears, will be coming out again. As long as he gets out onto the track in the next 90 seconds, maybe not 90 seconds, but the next, say, 70 to 80 seconds, then he should be able to get one final run in. But will it be enough? We'll have to see. The final 2.5 minutes here of qualifying as the 2 Red Bulls come out on the soft compound tyre, and so does Leclerc, Tsunoda and Alonso. Here's a replay of Valtteri Bottas. Oh, badly held up there by the AlphaTauri. I wonder who that was. It was Yuki Tsunoda. Bottas saying, fucking Tsunoda, fucking idiot, on the team radio, which, yeah, very stupid driving from Tsunoda, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if Tsunoda got a penalty for that, because that was very poor. In fact, he should get a penalty for that, because that was really poor. But yeah, every car now on circuit except for Lance Stroll, who has done his best time that he can do. 8.5 tenths off Verstappen so far, which is not too bad. But will he qualify 8th? We'll have to see. Will Max Verstappen still get pole position? We'll have to see. Will Hamilton be able to have enough speed to unseat Max Verstappen from pole position? We will see in the next 2 minutes. And we'll also see if Lando Norris can keep up the performance of third place. Would be incredible if he finished in that position. And of course, even if Bottas was to get ahead of him, as yet, turn 4 incident with Tsunoda and Bottas investigated after the session, it will be. As long as Norris qualifies 4th, and if it is Bottas ahead of him in 3rd, then Norris will start 3rd, of course, anyway. As the Mercedes there of Lewis Hamilton jumping a lot of cars there in the pack to try and get to the front of it, as Charles Leclerc now starts his final run, and now so does Lewis Hamilton on the soft compound tyre. Let's see what Hamilton can do as he comes to the pit straight now into turn 1 right about now. And he nails turn 1. But is it good enough for Lewis Hamilton? As he now comes up to the first sector time beam. And nope, his first sector is very slow. It's about 1/10.5 slower than his personal best. So not a good start to the lap here for Lewis Hamilton, as now everybody has begun their final qualifying attempt, I believe. As we've got, I think, an AlphaTauri about to complete their final lap. And Yuki Tsunoda goes up to 8th, but that is subject, of course, to the stewards later on. As Lewis Hamilton, after 2 sectors, is 4.5 tenths down, and he's not improving on this lap. And he's thrown it into turn 9 and gone too wide on the exit of turn 9. And Lewis Hamilton will not get pole position here. But what about Valtteri Bottas? As Leclerc has finished up in 7th, Valtteri Bottas goes 2nd. Of course, he will not start there. As Pierre Gasly goes up to 4th in the AlphaTauri. Alonso goes 9th. What can Lando Norris do? He goes up to 4th place, meaning, and Perez now goes 5th in the Red Bull. So it is Max Verstappen who now comes to the line. He doesn't go any quicker, but it is Max Verstappen on pole position. Bottas finishes in 2nd, but he will start the race in 5th. So starting the race in 2nd will be Lewis Hamilton, 3rd will be Lando Norris, 4th will be Perez, 5th Bottas, and then Gasly 6th, Leclerc 7th, Tsunoda 8th, Alonso 9th, Stroll 10th, and then the rest of the order, Russell, Sainz, Vettel, Ricciardo, Giovinazzi, and then Latifi, Ocon, Raikkonen, Schumacher, and Nikita Mazepin. So there you go, guys. That is qualifying for the 2021 Styrian Grand Prix. And, yeah, some great final laps there from Lando Norris, Gasly, Valtteri Bottas, but unfortunately he will not be able, I think fortunately, honestly, for Lewis Hamilton to capitalise on that because of his stupid mistake in practice 2 yesterday. So Bottas will start in 5th, but without doubt, the favourite for Grand Prix victory tomorrow is Max Verstappen. And we'll see, of course, if any surprises can happen down the field with drivers such as Lando Norris starting in 3rd and Perez 4th. And of course, Gasly looking strong in the AlphaTauri. As Max Verstappen now parks up in the P1 position. And Max Verstappen has got the hard job, I would say, done. The hardest part of all for a weekend, without doubt, is getting pole position if you're fighting in that part of the grid. In the race, at least you have a very large number of laps and distance to get back into the position you want to be in. But in qualifying, getting pole position, without doubt, a lot harder than I think, personally, the race win. Because in qualifying, it's, one small error can really mess up your race. When in the race, if you do make a small error, as Max Verstappen proved in France, you can still win the race. Because there are, of course, a number of laps to go in a particular Grand Prix to reverse any problems like that. But guys, that is it for the qualifying watch along today. Thank you guys for coming along. And again, I will be live tomorrow at 11 a.m. UK time for the race preview for the Styrian Grand Prix. That's 3 hours before the race starts. Then I'll be live again at 1:30 p.m. UK time for the race watch along with me and Nib. Of course, the race starts at 2, and then it'll be live at 7 p.m. UK time, about 3 to 3.5 hours after the race finishes, for the race review for the 2021 Styrian Grand Prix. So don't forget to come along to that. And again, subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you're notified as to when those streams go live tomorrow. As well, smash the like button. Don't forget to share this channel and stream everywhere you can. Comment down below what you thought of qualifying. And as well, don't forget to join my Discord server. Link below in the description. Best place that is for notifications, my videos and streams. And also, we have almost 500 people on that server. Be great if you joined the ever-growing community here on this channel. But guys, until my race preview tomorrow morning, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.